If I'm doing a crossover like this, my wrist is in the way versus if I'm like this, it's just a much smaller surface area. And this is the width, how much room it's taking up versus this is way more room. So if you play tenors with more of a French grip like this, then you can do crossovers a whole lot easier, but it impacts the sound quality. So it depends on like what you want to do. My technique is all about sound quality and relaxation to be able to play for an extended period of time. However, if you were to switch over to like a finger technique, then you might be able to play faster and do some easier crossovers than you would if you had like a flat grip or even kind of like the hybrid American grip. Or hand position, etc. So to each their own. Like every single technique is going to have a different affordance and a different constraint. It'll allow you to do some things better and other things worse, and you basically have to figure out like what it is that you want to do. So moving from Spock to 1, 2, 3, what you need to think about is where your center drum is going to be. So for this, we want to have it closest distance so we can get from 3 to Spock. Spock's going to be in the middle of the drum. But where our drum 1 hits, we need to kind of think that out in terms of triangulating it. Is it going to be closer to the Spock, closer to drum 3, or somewhere in the middle? I personally prefer to go somewhere in the middle, so it's more equidistant between the two. But that's something I need to think about whenever you're doing these like 3 drum patterns, moving across it off the left or off the right. So you should see very little change in your heights, in your technique, etc. You're just going to keep playing that check pattern over and over, regardless of how fast or slow you're playing this, and try and make everything nice and even. So it's important to practice the crossovers, like especially when it's all the same height, not just at like vertical or like 9 or something, but also at like 6 and 3. So that way you can get used to playing interior low notes as crossovers without like overemphasizing it when it's not supposed to be emphasized, but just as a tap, etc. Whenever you're practicing any of these crossovers on anything where it's all the same height, make sure you practice at different dynamic levels to kind of like improve your versatility as a tenor drummer. So when doing these accent taps, it's very important that you are maintaining the same approach up and down like this when moving to a different drum, okay? So you'll notice that I'm moving my arm slightly to get it to the new position. So ideally we want to have it close to the other drum. We don't want to have our wrist change angles like this, and we don't want to have our wrist bend like this. So in and out. We want to just move the arm, keeping the wrist the same way. That way we can have consistency with how we are playing as well as the sound quality that we are getting on the drums. Because if you hit it from a different type of approach, it's going to give you a different sound. Okay? Back in 2005, I got into a car accident. I had like some dude ran a red light and I just plowed right into him. So I hit my knee on my dashboard and like it made it so it was very difficult to march. Like my knee was just in constant pain. So I had these like painkillers, basically like a super Tylenol, and the painkillers made it so that I couldn't think very clearly. I went to play like the snare solo in the lot warming up, and I just completely forgot like the entire thing. And the instructor's like, "You good?" I'm like, "Yeah, I think I'm all right." And I tried playing it again. Nope. I just, all right, I'm done. And then one time we were playing triple diddle, or our version of it, and I fell asleep with my sticks out, standing up like while playing it. And I was like, all right, I need to get off these painkillers. I'd rather be in pain while marching than forget the music and fall asleep while we're drumming. Okay, so the hand that's underneath, if it is too high, it's going to make it so that you have a lot more arc motion that you're going to have to do to get the taps, and it's going to just like raise up all of your taps. So you really have to focus on the hand that's underneath, whether it's stick over stick or wrist over wrist crossover, that it stays nice and low at rest height. You don't want to have your rest height up here, or it's going to really mess with things. And if you're not resting, if you're playing like taps or something, keep them nice and low, etc., so it gets out of the way, because otherwise, if you're playing, it's just a whole lot more motion for you to move that way, and a lot more inconsistencies that you'll get where you'll hit your sticks and then they'll fall out of your hands. Trying to look for the placement of the bead and make sure that I'm hitting fairly consistent on the distance from the rim to the head where I'm hitting. So I don't want to have like my right hand hit here and my left hand hit here, because then you're going to get a deader thud the more you are toward the center of the drum. as opposed to closer to the rim, you'll get more of the ring, the resonant tone, etc. out of your drum. So I want it to be the same, so that way I'm not hearing like a ringing sound on the right hand and a thudding sound on the left hand or whatever. Where I screwed up, I was just like thinking about something else, and so my mind was like, hey, Jared, what are you playing right now? I don't know, and then it just messed up on the accent part. It's all mental to be able to play this stuff, especially slow. There's so much like space, so much room for thought to kind of like creep in and mess up with your playing. Honestly, that's one of the things that I love about drumming is like it is kind of like a meditative thing for me. So being able to just like focus your mind on something, it's like attention training, which like is a form of meditation that some different like Buddhist practices will do. So yeah, the drumming can be a form of meditation. Highly recommend. 10 out of 10. So these like random stick clicks and random moments where I hit a rim, I'm not finding like a clear pattern. Like with that, was just kind of like a one-off fluke. If it happened like 5 times in a row, cool. It's something that you can work on. But because it's only happening infrequently, I haven't been able to identify what the issue is and what I can actually sit and work through. That was Fast Slow Fast, which you can find under the technique section, just right here. Great way to work up anything, whether it's tenor technique, or something on drum kit, or just a rudiment, or a sticking pattern, whatever. You can start off at your fast speed, slow it down to specifically refine the technique, and then see if that refinement carries on over. So if you have like a consistent spacing between your diddles, if you hear a rim click on the second note, you could be starting too far to the side of the first note sweep. And if you hear it on the first note, then you might be starting too far toward the second note of whatever sweep you are doing. So that's might be what happens, but it could just be like a random brain fart. So listen for the consistent airs and then try and focus on fixing that consistent air, whatever it's going to be. Okay, so it starts off with a normal shopping spree. But there's a reason why this is called 4210 shopping spree. Because we're doing 4 of each rudiment, 4 counts. And then we go into 2 right here. Now 1. And then at the very end, it gets rid of the check entirely, so you just play the 1 count of every single rudiment with no check. That's the 0 pattern. So that's 4210 shopping spree.